The next one down here we want to use is the table. Okay, let me put the go here just to make sure we're on a separate batch. And let me close that. Again, if you don't remember, just Control R, close that result. So I'm going to say declare maybe like T1 for table 1, then table, and then I can just clear my table. The first column will be like ID of int, and I could leave it as is, or you can put a primary key if you want, but it's okay. And then you have the second column could be like I don't know, total of money, right? So just 2 columns in the table. And then again, this is only accessible when you run. So if I execute, I have a table created in the T1, it's in RAM. Once I get out of that, it's gone. Okay? To see it, you have to run everything in a single batch, one execution. So I can say select everything from the T1 table. Okay? And if you run them together, you see that the table has no result, no data, right? Just the ID and total column. Looks just like a regular table the result is. So how do you add data to it? Well, you have to put that in the code. So let me go here, above here, and I can insert into the T1. Then the values of 1, and then maybe 25, and then a second column, second record, 2 of, let's say 50, and then one more, 3 of 100. Okay. And then if you run all together one time, you get the table with the data. And again, only when you run this at runtime. And again, if I put go here, next batch, and if I select that from the table 1 down here, copy, put it down here, if you execute all these again together, you see that the red lines over this shows me that it's not accessible. But just in case if you don't know that, you run, you'll see that the second select statement here has an error. Okay, and the result would be, this result here is the first 3 lines, this 28 prints that out, but the second select statement fails, so it gives you the error message over here. So you cannot port that over. So what happens if I put a 2 here? Okay. Yeah, it still doesn't work. I think. Yeah. Usually just for global, but I mean that's global inside the database itself. Okay, so that's a table. Now let's do a temp table. I'm going to copy this. Okay, so I don't have to retype this again. We'll make this a temp table. So I put here, not declare, but I'm going to create table. You give it like a T1, but you put a pound in front. Okay, so you put a T1 here. I mean the pound with it, and then that's your new T1 table. Okay, I'm going to expand this. You can see inside here, not inside here, but when you create a local table, a temp table, it's going to be stored. It doesn't matter where you're at. Okay, it's always going to go into the systems databases and under the temp DB. Okay, so go into temp DB, under the temporary tables, you'll see it here. Yeah, so right now there's nothing there. Okay, we didn't create any yet. So if I create this now, I'm going to create a temp table called T1, and input some data in there. So just execute that. Okay, it's done. I select that from there as well. And if you go back and refresh your tempDB, you see that under the temp table there is a temp table called dbo.pound_t1. So now that is a table inside that database. It has actual data in there. Okay, it's temporary only until I close this tab. Okay, it will stay there. I can select the table just like a real database table. I can select it. I can keep adding data to it. 3, so this is 4, 5, and 6. Right? Insert that. Okay, I can select from the table. As you can see, it's a real table.
My question is, under temporary tables, DBOT1 disappear when you get out.
Yes. Yes. So as long as I have this tab open, I'm okay. But let's just say I copy everything just in case I don't want to lose it. Copy that, and if I close this tab, okay, the tab that creates this table, if I don't save it, I go back here, refresh it, you see that it's gone. Okay, it's only temporary when you run that session. The £1 sign. Okay, so if I go back in and copy this back in here, so let's go ahead and if you deleted it, you go back and create again. I'm going to copy recreate the table again. Okay, recreate again, add those data, so it's back in again. So here again, just to show that it's there, and there it is. Okay, the £1 sign. I'm going to add another session, the new query. I'll leave that open as it was, so it doesn't delete that from the database. And if I select from that table, select from pound, and notice you don't have to care about where you're at here. It will know that it's always coming from the temp table. Okay, I could select that from here if you want. Yes, you can do that. That will. Okay, if I run that T1, you see that it's not accessible from this session. Okay, so it's only visible in the session that was created this temp table. Okay. Now, if I create a second table, let's copy this, put it down here, and we'll pull it at T2. And we'll keep the same data. Now I put £2 signs in front. If you put £2 signs, then that is going to be accessible throughout all sessions. Okay, until you delete that original session that created it, then it's gone too. But if you leave it open like this, and if I run and I'll create that table too, okay, it's there. And if I go to the other session, we'll just refresh this to see the data. Right, it's there, T2, the £2 signs. Now if I go to the other session, and let me just copy this, put it down below it, put £2 sign for the T2. Okay, you'll see that. Let's see if it works. So the first one we know that fails. The second one, let's see if that works. Okay, see that the second one, I can reach it from any session as long as the original one I created it is still there. But once I close that session, let me just copy this in case. I close it, and if I try to access from here, it's gone, because that also deleted that all those temp tables from that as well. Okay, so if you want to do it this way, that's how you would use for the temp table. Okay, very easy like that, right? You use this one here for like you know, testing purposes. just make sure your data are good, and before you actually transfer that over or convert that over to a real table. Usually used for like testing purposes. Maybe you want to give that out to other people to test and use it, so you will use that and then keep the session alive. Just don't close it. Once you close it, it's gone. So just make sure.